Okay, I would like to welcome everybody to our regular council meeting for Monday, November 17th. I'd like to call this meeting to order. We acknowledge that this land is the traditional territory of the Three Fires Confederacy of First Nations, comprised of the Ojibwe, the Ottawa, and the Potawatomi people, and of the Huron-Wendat people. We value the significant historical and contemporary contributions of local and regional First Nations and of all the original peoples of Turtle Island who have been living and working on the land from time immemorial. Please stand for our national anthem.
Oh, Canada, our home and native land, true patriot love in all of us command.
Car ton bras s'est porté l'épée, il s'est porté la croix. Ton histoire est une épopée des plus brillants exploits.
God keep our land glorious and free. Oh, Canada, we stand on guard for thee. Oh, Canada, we stand on guard for thee.
Alan Jucolo for the two closed meeting reports held this evening.
Through you. On November 17, 2025 at 4:30 p.m., council moved into closed session pursuant to subsection 239, 2A, 2B, 2F, and 2I of the Municipal Act 2001 as amended to receive a third-party presentation regarding proposed security improvements to town property. On November 17, 2025 at 5 p.m., council moved into closed session pursuant to section 239, 2D, 2J of the Municipal Act 2001 as amended to receive an update on town personnel, to receive an update on labor negotiations, and to discuss potential town security improvements. And that is the extent of my report.
Alan Jucolo, any declarations of conflicts of interest from members of council this evening? Seeing none, if you find yourself in conflict later this evening, just advise us. Needing a mover and a seconder of the adoption of the published agenda as amended. We do have several amendments tonight. We do have a matter of new business being brought forward by Councillor Jason Mady. We do have a notice of motion being added by Councillor Jason Mady as well. We do have a notice of motion being added by Mayor Bondi. And also the fourth change is moving item 17.1 up under 18.2. That is the notice of motion regarding the affordable housing subsidy to accompany the delegates from the Affordable Housing Task Force. So looking for a mover and a seconder to move this agenda as amended. Deputy Mayor Shepley, Councillor Mady, any questions? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Looking for a mover and a seconder that we adopt the regular council meeting minutes for November 3rd. Moved by Deputy Mayor Shepley, supported by Councillor Guerin. Any questions? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Moving on, we have public presentations, and they're just here to answer questions. We have Dr. Ken Blanchett from the Windsor-Essex County Health Unit and Christy Macbeth. Okay, so they are here to answer questions on a letter that we received from our letter dated September. So below, we passed a notice of motion asking questions on how the beach in Colchester is tested, and they wrote back providing clarity on certain points on how they test the beaches. They provided some links on the beach water monitoring program and how they have an enhancement out there. They also provided some information on when the beach is tested and what that means regarding, for example, if it is under 200 units of E. coli for 100 milliliters, the beach is open. Between 201 and 99 units, there's a warning, and over 1,000 units, the beach is closed. So there was other tips that they gave to the municipality and to residents to keep the beach clean and to keep the water clean. Always pick up your animal waste. Pet waste is a major source of bacteria. Don't use soap in the water, as that feeds the algae and bacteria. Don't litter. Don't dispose of human waste in the water. Don't feed or leave food to attract animals and birds near the water. Don't go in the water if you have an infection or open wound. And something that maybe in the future we can have future discussions about in Essex is ensure your septic systems are in good working order, which is something throughout my years on council I've been seeing correspondence from other municipalities regarding that. In agricultural areas, fence animals away from streams and ensure feedlot and manure pile runoff is properly contained. So they are here if members of council have any questions regarding this letter that was sent back to us. Deputy Mayor Shepley.
Through the chair, welcome tonight. I have the privilege of sitting on the board with you guys. So one of the things that we hear quite often is on the water quality testing that goes on out in Colchester. And I kind of know the answers, but maybe if they hear it from you guys, it would help. Is there's always the question of why we do our water testing if there's been a storm, because we know there's runoff, we know there's going to be a likely fail. The other question we get quite often is why can't we test it again to get open sooner for the weekends? Because a lot of the businesses and tourism out there really rely on that beach being open. And as one of the business owners in the area, I do see significant drop in. I mean, we don't open. It's that much of a difference when that beach isn't open. So those are some of the questions they have, and I'm just wondering if you could speak to any of those, just to kind of then it's out there, and we can refer to them to those conversation points.
You could please go back to the delegation podium and turn on the microphone so that our folks at home on YouTube can hear you. And thank you for coming again.
Good to be here. So I got Christy Macbeth, our senior director here. I kind of started off. I think we'll both kind of answer this question together on this. The testing itself is done once a week right now because of the limitations that we have. That's the way the system works. It has the water has to go outside of the area. I think it's to London as the lab for the testing. And one of the things that we had implemented was a different system I'll have Christy talk about for us to kind of predict, right, what the level is of the E. coli based on a storm or something like that, or a surge. But the other thing is we have new standards, new draft standards that are going to be implemented within 2026, January 2026, that will allow us to do testing a little bit more frequent, but it would require a commitment from the municipality themselves to invest into being that, but we would be able to help work with the municipality. Your question, I'd like to kind of give a little bit more context. When you talk about the runoff, right, the rain runoff, and to Mayor Bondi, when you said about the septic system, had a conversation with Dr. Alouche. He couldn't be here tonight as well, but he also said one of the things that municipalities are doing is a waterfront plan, right, on those things, where in that process you are taking into account overflow pieces, farming runoff, things, septic systems that aren't maybe up to code, or dumping directly into the lake or the system. That kind of plan, well, that plan, there's municipalities across the province that have done it. I believe there are 3 beaches in Southern Ontario that have become blue flag, what they call blue flag beaches, where the highest standard you can get for water quality or accessibility to be able to go swimming. So that's something that we could provide administration a little bit more context to, or some information or some links following the meeting. But I'd like to pass it to their senior director to talk about the real nuances of the testing.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Chair. So just a couple of the data points. So I would just like to say, Colchester Beach, when I look at the data, especially from the last couple of years, had 5 warnings posted and only 2 closures in 2025. So overall, I would not say, generally speaking, when we look at all of our public beaches in the area, which the health unit does do the weekly sampling at, Colchester doesn't have, let's say, a disproportionate amount of warnings or closures. So certainly we recognize rain has a huge impact on that. The protocol under the provincial regulations, which as Mayor Bonnie pointed out, we've provided some links in there, is a weekly sample. So our health unit does that at every public beach. To Ken's point, the sample is not tested locally. It's not a take a sample and we get an instant result. It has to be packaged, shipped to the public health lab in London, and then we have to wait a couple of days for results. So the timing of that, with that window, trying to get that result for Friday, the latest possible test day is when we do the testing so that we can have a result for Friday, right? Knowing that our beach is most frequented on the weekend. So to Ken's point, our new public health standards open up a little bit in terms of, it's not necessarily the protocol has changed, it's the opportunity for health units to allow others, like municipalities, to potentially do an additional sample. I will caution this though, because we will still be confined by the lab system. So as an example, we could decide we're going to test on a Monday. Let's say the health unit, their weekly test would be on Monday, and let's say the town wanted to do a test on Wednesday. We would still have that ship the result, wait for the lab. So there is still a delay. Even with an additional sample, we're still not necessarily dealing with a perfect system because we have to get those results back and be able to communicate those, get those results, either post them, close the beach, et cetera. And we do that by communication through the municipality. So there's we work very closely when it comes to this. It's actually the municipal staff that go out and actually do the postings and the closures communicated once we get those results. So that's sort of in general how it works. Unfortunately, weather often has different plans. And so, when we do that testing, we do it on the optimum day of the week so that we can get the results back and post them on Friday afternoons, just knowing that that is the most frequent time. So there is an opportunity for additional testing to be working with partners. I don't know that it solves completely the problem.
Question I had, which I know, again, we've talked about it at the Board of Health, but just so that the general public knows, when we did talk about the modeling, even though our modeling might say the beach would be open, it can't be open based on the actual test results that came in. So it's just something I wanted to make sure that you can verify that for the public so they're aware of that as well.
Yeah, so this year we introduced a new beach forecasting model. So we have decades worth of data related to this. So our epidemiology team has created a data model where, with the ability of getting some support from municipalities to do a turbidity test on a daily basis, we provide online an estimation based on the current weather, turbidity of the water, temperature, rainfall, et cetera. We give a daily forecast of today, the beach is likely safe for swimming or not unlikely, don't swim is recommended. The challenge is that is just a modeling unit, and the E. coli results as a result of that provincial guideline, they trump everything. So even if the model based on that daily comes back for, let's say, a Friday that it's likely to swim, if we get that E. coli result test back, there either has to be that warning or a closure, depending on the results. So the modeling is an addition to this beach testing model, but the test for E. coli is really the gold standard for what determines water safety.
Out and sharing that information. One of our Councillor Meady had a water weekend. I'll let you explain it probably better. And in that we did some testing, but I was excited to do the testing only to find out that we certainly do any testing that would open the beach up, unfortunately. So thank you.
Councillor Meady.
Thank you, and through you, Chair. Yeah, so to the Deputy Mayor's point there, just a little while ago, I did host a little water event out at the Colchester Harbor there. I had a few speakers come out, like Dr. Katie Stamler and Dr. Tang from the Research Institute there. And there was a lot of discussions on testing and how we could test and things are testing. So when you're talking about possible partners, but lab results being is there any partners in our area that might have access to labs that we can trust, or does it have to go to a public health lab?
Yeah, through you, Mr. Chair, the testing goes through the public health lab, which is in London. And so those water quality test results, generally speaking, you couldn't just send to a local lab. It's something I think that could be investigated, but to our understanding, our system is all through the public health lab, which our closest one is in London.
Councillor Hammond, go ahead.
Thank you, through you, Chair. So when the town does their own testing, will they be able to get some sort of gauge as to the clarity of the water, or they won't know until the results come back from, there's nothing there to give some sort of indication? No?
So in a model where, let's say, we collectively agree to that we're going to resource 2 samples a week. So let's say the health unit staff go out one day and then town staff might go out another day. We're still confined by that lab system. And the report would come to us as a health unit. We would then communicate it and say, this is what came back. It's a warning or a closure, just like we do now. What it could do, as an example, if there was an additional, is that potentially the town could test on Monday, we could post something on Wednesday, and then we would test on Wednesday and post a more up-to-date E. coli result, let's say for Friday, for the weekend. So it doesn't necessarily, as I said before, totally change the situation. We're still confined by sending it to the lab, waiting for those results to come back.
Chair, to that, then, so there's no like testing chlorine in a pool or anything. There's no way for the town to get any kind of indication from their testing as to the clarity of the water that they're testing, other than there's nothing other than that lab to get a result.
For E. coli, yes. There's no instant E. coli test result. I'm sure as came up in those discussions around water quality. It's certainly the challenge. We do, as an example with the beach forecasting, we do a turbidity test, which gives us some understanding of the water quality that day, but it does not provide E. coli. And that is really from an operational guidelines perspective of water safety. When it comes to beaches, E. coli is the really key part around human health and safety.
Thanks through the chair. I have 2 questions. The first one is, when you do sampling, do you do 1 sample per beach? How many samples do you take per beach? And do you take them in the same spot?
So the answer to that is no, we take multiples, and we all do it based on the protocol. So the inspectors have to go out to a certain height of water and they take multiple samples. So we do it all in accordance with the protocol, and it's the same at every beach.
Thanks through the chair. I'm going to ask this question. I know the answer, but I would like the public to hear the answer. It is perception that sometimes samples are taken and it might be taken near goose feces, which would then say it's E. coli and the water is unsafe. Are there measures in place so that way that doesn't happen? So that way you're taking multiple samples in multiple locations, so the 1 sample is not contaminated, but all of the samples are contaminated. You know what I'm saying? People think that you take a sample, it could be contaminated with goose feces, and then you close the beach because of one sample.
Jump in.
I would just say water moves. And so if we take a sample that, I don't know that I totally understand the question with the goose poop being at a particular spot mid-deep in the water. I would say if we're moving out to that appropriate spot based on the protocol and taking a sample and there's goose poop in there and there comes back an E. coli, then the water is at risk.
You take, I don't know how many samples, you didn't say, you take 10 samples. If 1 of 10 samples comes back high in E. coli, what is your findings? Close the beach or keep the beach open?
So the samples come back as a cumulative result of all of the tests that go. So the lab sends us in total, here's your E. coli result, and then it's determined. So the samples are cumulative. So it's not, if there's 1 bad sample, this is the result for the beach testing for that entirety beach for the week.
If I could add some clarity to that, the results are in a parts per million type of piece, right? So if you have a certain number of samples and 1 might be close to a floating piece of feces, it's kind of an odd conversation to have on a Monday night. But that would add to the total count. But what the other samples, remember the individuals are staff, but they're walking out to a certain depth and they're going deep into the water. It's not like they're going next to a small puddle on the sand or in the mud where there's maybe an inch of water with feces around it. So to Christie's point, when you're taking a sample of something like that, when you're looking at the parts per million and the size of the sample that you're taking from and the movement of the water, even going to the exact same spot, the water's still moving, right, around it. So what you're getting in this type of process, it really is a fair judgment of the E. coli content in the area that you're sampling from. Does that help answer the question, Counselor?
Counselor Mady has another question.
Future. It was just a follow-up from my first one there. So the other part that was that you were talked about the blue flag beaches and that they were looking at partnerships where they're going to start looking maybe a little bit further inland on how we could address the problem.
That came from a very extensive process for the municipalities that went to did that work. Like I said, it's a waterfront master plan. I think it was that they had started the process for, that they measure, and part of that report they look at wastewater runoff, septic, or I don't know what the proper word would be, but let's just say unmonitored or not to code septic systems that are dumping directly in. And there is a process behind that, right? And then there's also green processes that you can do for water runoff that helps filter, any type of that kind of pieces into the lake or the beach areas. So that's a world-class designation of blue flag. I mean, that's like the absolute optimal bar to reach for. But the work that needs to happen, right? When we're really talking about the conversation here, we're doing the testing. We're not doing the mitigation for what's getting into the water. And that's where the real work really needs to be, which is a lot of work, right, on that piece. So we can continue to do the additional testing, these other pieces, and we will, with the team, what they did with the modeling processes, we heard loud and clear that people would love to be able to participate and be on the beach. And we also know internally, as we're talking about it today, the limitations of the system, of the samples, having to go to London and having to wait a few other days. So we implemented this, and we were very happy. Not just Essex, but a lot of our other municipalities participated because it was an additional resource on every municipality to be able to go into that predictive model piece, which was very helpful in the first year, plus 10 years of data. It's going to help us. But that ultimate trump card, like she talked about, you get a positive high level of E. coli. That's what's dictating our recommendations. So if there's, like I said, we could be more than happy to provide some of the content and help guide, right? So for your administration to look into these pieces and support along the way as you go down that process. If you decide to if you can look into those pieces, it's, like I said, it's a tremendous amount of work.
Last follow-up on this. So I do plan on having some more water events. You mind if I knock on your door and have you come out and speak to that too?
We'll have Dr. Luce ready for that because he's the one that I had consulted on that. But yeah, more than happy to help out wherever we can.
Yeah, to the best of my knowledge right now, you're just doing Colchester Beach in our community. You don't do beaches like Ambassador Beach or Belcraft Beach. Because some of those, on any given day, some of those houses can actually be below the water level. So I would think with the low-lying conditions down there that there would be some measure of concern for those areas that people are swimming in as well. Might be something to look like in the future.
For Hammond, I believe their program is for the public health unit, public beaches. So I don't know where we would draw the line on some of those private beaches. I do have a couple questions myself. If you have a financial commitment or if you have something that you think that we can do, if you could please send it to our CAO and our Director of Finance so we can discuss it potentially in the 2026 budget. I know that we only had 2 beach closures in the last year, but when you think about it, there's really only 8 weekends where you can swim. So 2 is 25%, another 1 or 2, there's rain. So, there's really 4 weekends that we actually get to use our beach. And my question is, do you feel like it's trending up or trending down, or is it kind of the same? That's my first question, please.
So at this point, so overall, as an example in Windsor Essex, in 2024, we had 27 warnings and 9 closures. In 2025, we had 25 warnings and 5 closures. So it actually went down. I wouldn't rush to judgment and say that that's trending downwards, but I would, when we look at comparatively just in the last 2 years, we haven't seen an increase.
Thank you. And the 200 or less, the 200 to 999 and the above, the 1,000 and above, is that stayed the same for many years?
Yeah, the protocol, 2019 protocol, and the recreational water guideline is from 2018. So those have been standard from the province since then.
Thank you. So yes, if you could send us any information on the financial commitment, that would be great. And the other reason why Colchester Beach is so near and dear to many of us up here is our water intake for Harrow and Colchester is just a kilometer away. So when we're testing something at the lake, at the beach, we're drinking it. And I know it's treated, but it's where our drinking water is from. And we want to market our beach. We want to be able to bring our locals there and bring tourists there. And, we want them to stay at local places and go down to the beach. It happened to me a couple summers ago. I had family come down, stay at the Grove, and then we couldn't use the beach. And I was like, oh, darn. So Councillor Verbeek has the comment, and then I will seek a motion to receive the presentation.
Okay, through you, Madam Mayor, just a quick question. I know it's it's probably not anything that could ever come to fruition, but do you think that if there was testing available down here for all the Windsor Essex County beaches, that you would cut down that lag time, that you could perhaps test the water on a Thursday or even a Friday morning to get a more accurate or a more timely result?
So you mean the lab system?
The lab system, would it change the lag time between testing and results if there was testing available here?
It could. So right now, obviously, the biggest time delay is shipping the test results, right? We have to package them and send them off, keep them temperature controlled. The processing time at the lab is another factor that, we don't have control over. Right now, it's about 2 days. So I would think that would potentially shut it down. That's one of the reasons why we try to do the sampling on the Wednesday. So at least we make sure it's Friday, right? We try to push it as far as we can. The lab system, though, is still subject to, the confines of hours of operation and things like that. So I think it would definitely increase our opportunities, I think, to decrease that time. But it has been some time since Windsor Essex has had a lab for public health results. So, that was, I think, closed many, many years ago. So unfortunately isn't necessarily an option for us from a public health lab perspective.
Thank you.
Please feel free to send us anything. I know that your job is the testing and our job is the mitigation. If you come across anything that other municipalities have precedent setting for mitigation, whether it's septic systems close to the lake, that other shoreline program you were talking about, please send it to us so that we can start working on that. And I know Councillor Mady and Councillor Allard will host another meeting and we'll get working on that. Want to have a final comment?
Sure. I was just going to say we will definitely be putting something together based on the conversations that we had here, something that we can have at least guide you along where to get some of the material. And also always thank you for the support. I know we have Deputy Mayor on our board, and we are always happy to show up at the council meetings to answer questions, to help you do your job. So thank you.
I'll look for a mover and a seconder that we receive Dr. Ken Blanchette and Christy Macbeth from the Windsor Essex County Health Unit in the response to the beach closures in the municipality of Essex. Moved by Deputy Mayor Shepley, supported by Councillor Mady. Any other questions, comments? All in favor? And that is carried unanimously. Thank you for joining us this evening. At this time, we will go to our other public presentation from Rachel Mills and Fred Groves, members of the Affordable Housing Task Force. Miss Mills and Mr. Groves, please go back to the delegation podium, and together you have 10 minutes.
Good evening, members of council. My name is Fred Groves, and along with Rachel Mills, we're here representing the town of Essex's Affordable Housing Task Force. In your agenda package this evening, you received a letter expanding briefly on what our task force objective is and specifically how we can be of assistance to our residents as they struggle with housing affordability. First off, I want to thank you for having the vision in forming this task force, which has brought together highly motivated and committed individuals from various sectors and expertise. And secondly, to thank you for giving us this opportunity to speak with you. As you are aware, Ontario is the only province or territory in Canada in which housing is a responsibility of individual municipalities and not of the upper tiers of government. It may seem a daunting task to achieve affordable housing, but our think tank believes that with your support, it is one in which we can set a standard of leadership for others to follow. One way in which to do that is to support, in the way of subsidies, assistance to ensure our current stock of affordable housing units in Essex is maintained. Our task force is being advised without financial incentives that will lead to necessary repairs. Several of our local affordable units will become unfit to inhabit. And while Rachel will present to you a more detailed request, it is our hope that the Essex Affordable Housing Task Force can rely on your best judgment as you enter your final budget deliberations. Essex continues to support a community through several subsidies, such as swim passes, tree planting, a flooding subsidy, and a community improvement grant program. These and other incentives in our town allow our residents of all ages to live in a safe and healthy environment. I thank you and now pass the presentation on.
Thank you, Fred, and good evening, Mayor and members of Council. As Fred mentioned, my name is Rachel Mills. I am also here as a representative of the Affordable Housing Task Force. And I'm just going to briefly expand on why this notice of motion presents such an important leadership opportunity for the town of Essex. Right in our own Essex community, we have affordable units that are already home to residents who want to remain safely housed. Several of these homes are now at risk of becoming uninhabitable without timely repairs, as was highlighted in our most recent task force meeting. Millions of dollars. When we lose existing units, we fall further behind, and the people that are impacted are often those with the fewest options and requiring the most support in our communities. This is where municipal leadership can make a real difference. A small strategic municipal investment can make this entire process more efficient, more accessible, and far more likely to succeed for our local nonprofit housing providers. Many of these organizations face challenges completing the required reports, and applications at the front end. So making sure they're meeting timelines. With the timelines being so tight and the upfront costs, it can make it difficult to move quickly enough to secure the funding that's needed. This subsidy can ensure that the required work does get completed promptly and that will position them well to successfully access the much larger provincial and federal grants intended to preserve, repair, and expand affordable housing in our community. By exploring a subsidy program, the town has the chance to show both initiative and partnership within our capacity to the upper levels of government, demonstrating that Essex is committed to not only creating new housing, but also protecting the homes and units we already have housing our community members. On behalf of the task force, I respectfully ask Council to support this next step as you move into the budget deliberations. It's a practical, proactive, and compassionate way to ensure Essex is doing its part while continuing to clearly signal that further provincial and federal support is urgently needed. So thank you.
To our members of our Affordable Housing Task Force, any questions to our delegates from members of council? At this point, I'll seek a motion to receive the delegates, and then if you two just want to hang tight in case there is questions in the future. So right now, looking for a mover and a seconder that the delegation by Rachel Mills and Fred Groves, members of the Affordable Housing Task Force, be received. Moved by Councillor Allard, supported by Councillor Hammond. Any questions? Seeing none, all in favor? And that is carried. And we'll move on to Director Malandrucolo to read the notice of motion.
Mayor Bondi, through you. The following notice of motion was presented at the November 3, 2025 regular council meeting and is being brought forward tonight for council's consideration. Moved by Mayor Bondi that Town of Essex Council direct administration to investigate options for an affordable housing subsidy program to help nonprofits who supply affordable residential units in our community to use the subsidy to leverage grant dollars and that such program be included in the 2026 Town of Essex budget document for deliberation.
I need a seconder. Seconded by Councilor Verbeek. Mayor Bondi, speak to your motion.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. As part of some of the work that I do and we do as the Affordable Housing Task Force, I thought of how can we have a win in 2026? We do know the Affordable Housing Task Force is going to work on an affordable housing strategy, which will take us into the future. That strategy will be put together in 2026. So we really won't have anything that is really achievable within reach in 2026. So by moving forward tonight on investigating what a subsidy could look like means we could have a win in our 2026 budget. So before this evening, just as other members of council, all of us have the opportunity to meet with administration. I went to administration and I asked if we could earmark for debate tonight and in the future, $12,500. Not a lot of money. It's kind of like a little drop, but it could really help getting some work done where we could leverage that $12,500 to help affordable housing units that are already in existence in our municipality, in particular in Ward 1. I'm also involved with CHC housing. So, anybody that has affordable housing that is nonprofit could come forward and say, we have this unit. Does this subsidy qualify for rehab for this unit? The rehab is going to cost $50,000. Can we get a subsidy of $1,000 from the town to get an engineering assessment to trigger the grant? So really, we're putting out the seed money, and then the organization uses that seed money to do a study and then triggers grants from either the provincial or the federal government. If we're going to have any gains in affordable housing, we need to maintain the existing stock that we already have here. This is kind of similar to what we've been doing and advocating for with our land lease properties. We're losing our affordable housing stock in our land lease properties due to increase in land rents. And now we're seeing affordable housing stock in our municipality crumble right before our eyes because some of them don't have the money to do the repairs and they need grants. But in order to do the grants, they have to have the engineering done first. So if we support looking into this subsidy, we can have it come back to us during budget. But I really wanted it to be a standalone discussion where members of the task force could speak to it. Thank you, Chair.
Questions to the motion? Any comments from anybody? Councillor McGuire, please.
Thanks through the chair. I have some concerns regarding the motion. I fully recognize the importance of affordable housing. I do see that there is an issue with affordable housing, especially in our area, but I don't believe that establishing a municipal affordable housing subsidy program is the appropriate way to address this. The County of Essex has indicated in its most recent large-scale industrial grant matching program on page 4 that it would be open to additional CIP incentive programs if directed by County Council, specifically naming the Regional Affordable Housing Strategy as an area where such programs could apply. Given this, I believe the appropriate step for a mayor and deputy would be for a mayor and deputy mayor to bring this matter to County Council before asking the lowest tier of government to take on the task. If the county is prepared to support or lead such incentives, the conversation needs to happen at that tier first, I think. I also would strongly encourage our mayor and deputy mayor to speak directly with Ontario's Minister Flack, the Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing at Roma this January, about this shortfall that our social housing is experiencing. I don't believe I believe municipalities cannot and should not be expected to backfill this funding gap that and place a burden on our local taxpayers. So I feel like our taxpayers are already paying this tax. It's just not being funded properly, or there's a gap. So I would encourage us to go and ask for this gap to be filled by the tiers of government that should already be supporting it before we add to our tax burden at this level, at the lowest level of government. So that's where I stand on that.
Councillor Verbeek.
Through you, Madam Mayor, to to speak in support of your motion as a member of the this task force. I just want to make fellow councillors, as I hear we're not all on board with support for this. So indeed, we are the only province that this has been downloaded to. And so it is on the backs of our municipality and the upper tiers. However, what is key and what brought us here and why the mayor brought this motion forward to us is because we have these units here in Essex that are deteriorating rapidly. They've been identified. They need the work. What we learned at the last task force meeting from the people that are in the trenches, the brainiacs that are far more familiar with this than me as a council liaison, are that there are grants available. There are ways to help do some of these repairs, to retain these homes. So we have families living in these homes, and these homes are going to be shuttered because the repairs aren't being done. There are grants available. They are unable to get these grants because apparently these grants come up quickly, and they aren't grant ready because they have to then find an engineer to do a report that's going to cost $1,500 to $2,000 to help assist with the grant writing. And then maybe they get the $6,000 repair that's needed for windows and doors, or the $50,000 to restore the cinder blocks in the basement. They're all at different levels of need, but either way, they're in our community, and that's the smallest piece we can do. And absolutely, all levels of government need to get on this, all hands on deck, and they all need to start looking for solutions. But the committee, has found one little way to assist them in retaining and maintaining the stock we have just within our municipality. And if we approve this $12,000, it may help get 10 or 12 engineer reports on the stock that's there. This doesn't have to go ongoing. Hopefully, because we're not the only affordable housing task force that's working on looking for solutions. Hopefully there'll be other solutions, and this isn't going to be ongoing. But for now, this is one little tiny step that we could take. And I'd like to ask Director Chadwick to please comment on this. This was the smallest ask we could bring forward.
Councillor Hammond.
You, Chair, to Councillor Verbeek, maybe you could help council by walking us through how this procedure would work, how we determine what buildings need to have this sort of help, and how that money gets distributed, and the processes of getting the grants. Maybe you could fill us in on how that works.
And turn it back over to,
Okay. Yes.
to Director Chadwick, because she wanted to speak, and then I'll come back to you, Kim.
Deputy Mayor, thank you, Councillor Verbeek and Councillor Hammond. So just to summarize what I believe the question was pertaining to is related to what the issues are, particular to one of our housing, affordable housing providers. There are others within the municipality. And so just to speak to one example, there are units within the Essex nonprofit that are potentially or could potentially become uninhabitable within the next 18 to 24 months. And based on even current conditions, up to approximately 67 units could become uninhabitable by 2030. So the condition assessments that are required to apply for various provincial and federal grants are requirements. And really, that is the crux of the issue that we're hearing from that particular housing provider. We do understand that the town, of course, has other nonprofit organizations that maintain and operate other affordable housing units. And so we understand that Mayor Bondi's motion before you is to investigate options for an affordable housing subsidy program to help nonprofits in general who would not only supply or operate affordable residential units, but to leverage grant dollars and that essentially to kind of give them the in when grant portals and applications become open. Administration could propose various requirements. Perhaps, the program would detail, similar to a CIP, what would become, eligibility requirements as a part of this grant. That's to come. That's kind of behind the scenes discussions that we've been having. But in terms of, what would warrant an eligible nonprofit is to be determined at this point.
Thank you, and through you, Chair. So yeah, that's a great explanation. And I was kind of looking to see that we're not debating the amount of money tonight. We're just asking for some options on what's going to come back to us. Because I do believe that, yeah, it is upper tiers that should be doing this, but sometimes when you start a push, you have to put your money where your mouth is first, and so that you're willing to help and that you're willing to go to bat and that you believe in this enough that other tiers should be working with us. And I have no problem starting that charge for a good reason. What my question would be is that when you investigate the options, would it be possible to have it come back where our accessibility committee could have this as kind of like a committee money, where like the ACT committee has money for murals and the Heritage committee has some money for heritage designations and grants. If there would be a chance for this to become an actual committee of council and for that money to be handed out that way.
Should this motion pass tonight, we can incorporate what the governance structure would look like and council would have the ultimate discretion of that.
And over to Councillor Verbeek, and then I have Councillor Hammond next.
Through you, Chair. I think Director Chadwick covered most of it, but I believe if you look at the minutes from our last Affordable Housing Task Force meeting, there's an entire report on the state of the most important homes that need repair of those 67 units. But as Director Chadwick said, this would not be just to that one specific provider, that it would be a pocket of money. And when it was gone yearly, then you would have to wait till the next year to apply for, I believe we talked about possibly up to $2,000 an applicant. And they would have to, of course, go through an application process.
Then I have Mayor Bondi next.
Just one more. Since it's run by the county, how do we know that they're doing their due diligence in monitoring the occupants of these affordable housing units? Who's to say that these people might have, in some cases, say these persons moved on and still is subletting that place out to someone else, maybe at a profit? How do we know that's not happening? How can we be assured that the occupancy of that occupant is on that lease and that they are vulnerable and need housing? How do we know that's actually happening?
So certain nonprofit homes are run by different organizations. None are run by the county. The County of Essex does not do housing. Essex Nonprofits is its own board. And so I hear what Councilor McGuire Blaze is saying, but in my opinion, we're going to spin our wheels. And the county is not going to bail us out right here. I'll be very clear. I'll go on record. The county's not going to help us. The county is going to point the finger to the city because the city is the service manager for housing in Windsor and Essex County. The city's going to point the finger at the province, saying that the province is the one who needs to help and bail us out. And the province isn't listening. So if we want, and this is 343 people in single detached subdivision homes in Essex, mostly Ward 1. Most of our social housing is in Ward 1. We have 24 seniors, 158 children. Right now, we have a stock of homes that are falling apart with our own residents in there. This subsidy money is taking $1,000 or $2,000 per home and leveraging it to get $150,000 worth of grant money from upper levels of government. It is basically a token to say we believe in affordable housing. We have a task force. We've believed in the task force. We have initiated the task force. The task force unanimously supported the letter that we got tonight. The task force decided to also send delegates to us tonight. So this is, if we don't want to do anything on affordable housing, then let's not. Let's stop and say, hey, task force, hey, staff that meet and discuss the task force, let's stop spinning our wheels because we really don't care. We're really not going to put any money into it. But this is a small token to leverage assets that already exist in our municipality. To build affordable housing units, to build a new single family home, you're looking at $500,000. Where to keep one from a taxpayer point of view right now is $2,000. I know that it's hard to justify spending taxpayer dollars on affordable homes. And I know that we don't always have checks and balances on who lives there. And if they make too much money, a couple $100 more, then they shouldn't live there. But this to me is really a no-brainer on how to keep affordable housing stock in our municipality. The province isn't going to help us. Deputy Mayor Shepley, you know the county's position. They're not going to help us. If we are going to be leaders in trying to do something, trying to move that barometer just a little bit in the municipality of Essex, then we got to retain what we have and work on gaining more. But we're losing under this term of council. I do not want to lose what we've had. And if we don't support this, we are going to lose what we already currently have. So when the time is right, Director Malin-Duclos, I would like a recorded vote. Thank you.
And then Councillor McGuire Blaze, and then I'm going to throw a few comments out there myself.
Hey, thanks to the chair. Yeah, so a couple of things I just like to, if this idea of a subsidy for the nonprofit housing, I'm assuming then they would not be exclusive to any one of our nonprofits, and it would be, but it would be exclusive to Essex nonprofit homes, correct?
Through you, Deputy Mayor, my understanding is that the subsidy program would be open to any nonprofit that is an operator, owner, maintainer of affordable residential units.
Within the town of Essex.
Through you, correct, within the town of Essex, municipal boundaries, yes.
Further to that, from my knowledge, does a subsidy like such as this exist in any of our neighboring municipalities or anywhere else in Ontario?
Through you, Deputy Mayor. Yes, through various community improvement plans, what we know as CIPs, housing specific CIPs, affordable housing specific CIPs. They exist throughout the entire province and are the biggest tool that municipalities have to provide grants to affordable housing providers.
So the object of the subsidy would be seed dollars for the task force, et cetera, to position themselves to garner grants from higher ups. Is that correct? It's not to solve the problems or to fix the homes.
That's correct. My understanding is that the grant would be, or the subsidy would be to leverage, to complete a study that would leverage that entity to apply for dollars from the province or federal government or other entities.
We'd be asking for administration to come back with some sort of a subsidy program that council would be in agreement to. And this would not be necessarily a one time 1 year ask. This could be potentially an annual ask.
I think that's to be determined. So at this point, I believe the ask is within budget deliberations for 2026. Perhaps CEO Drucevic or Director Rowe can add.
So at this point, the draft budget document is being printed as we speak. And so depending on the outcome of tonight, we will include this in our changes from the print. So I believe Mayor Bondi referenced an amount of 12,500. And so if council approves this tonight, we will include that in the budget. And I'll leave it to council to decide if it's going to be one time or annual through the tax levy.
Okay, then further to that, through the chair. So we're being asked to approve the funds tonight without knowing what the subsidy program is going to be.
Through the chair, it will, yeah, in essence, in a way, yes, it will be, you're not approving any funds though, it will be presented in budget deliberations, so you could deny it at budget deliberations as well.
So we'll have the subsidy before us before that. That's what I'm saying.
No, that's not the way the notice of motion is written. So the notice of motion is written that we allocate an amount in the budget and then concurrently investigate and bring options forward. It would be a large undertaking for Midmin to compile and present a CIP. It will take a few months for us to get something in front of council.
Okay, then through the chair. If we're being asked to approve it and it's going to be in the budget, but we don't know what it is, how is it going to help them now? How is the money going to be allocated? Who's going to know about it? Who's going to know who apply for it? All that stuff. Unless I'm totally missing something here. I don't understand what I like solving problems, but I mean, it sounds to me like we don't know what we're solving yet. We got an idea of what we want to solve, but we're being asked to, and listen, I grew up there. My family lived there for 40 years. I understand the importance of the homes. But I want to make sure that we're just not saying, let's do something and then let's see if it works itself out in 6 months from now. I mean, we need to know what we're doing here. And if it's actually something that's going to be able to solve someone's problem, like we're talking a 1 year, maybe 2 years, and some homes may, like, I just don't understand what we're doing tonight. We don't have if we don't know what the subsidy is going to be and who can apply for it, I don't understand how we approve anything.
You had a comment, and then I'm going to go, and then if anybody needs to speak after that, you got one chance, and that's it.
The chair. All I wanted to say was, I do agree with Councillor Guerin that maybe we're like jumping the gun. And I do think that we need to have, I know you don't believe that the county or the province will support the initiative, but we didn't even ask. And it doesn't sound like the task force asked, and it doesn't sound, it sounds like you're assuming that people are going to say no. So I think that the appropriate steps would be to ask those tiers of government first. When you sit down, when Mayor Bondi and CAO Drucevic sat down with our MP and our MPP, did you talk about affordable housing? And what was that conversation? I think I need more information before I say, yeah, all of these tiers of government have said no. And so we're going to increase our taxes to the municipality of Essex so we can support it. I do support municipal housing. I grew up down the road, or not grew up, but I lived for 10 years near the CAW homes. And I know how important it is. I have friends who live there currently. I know the state of those houses, and I know that they need to be fixed. I know how everything changed hands, and it's vital to the community, that area. I just don't think we should jump into something without asking those tiers of government first for what we're looking for before we burden the rest of our municipality with increased taxes for this. So all my ask is that we do our due diligence. We ask those tiers of government. And if they say no, and if the answer is no, that's just something that, the Housing Corporation are going to have to take the burden on, then bring it back to us. But we should ask first. or we can jump ahead and we can say, you know what, we're not going to ask for, we're going to do it ourselves. And then what happens if there is a thing and we just paid $12,000 for something that already exists and we just don't know about it or weren't aware of it? I don't know. I just feel like we should ask and see if the other tiers of government are willing to help us with this small amount. It's a small amount. I agree. I want to see it go through. I want to see those houses improve, and I want to see the quality of life of the people of Essex improve. I just don't want to jump into something without asking and without being clear on what it is we're actually going to be spending that money on.
McGuire Blaze. So I'll just make a few quick comments, and I found tonight that it's very difficult to you preset your notes and then everybody talks, and when you don't get a chance to talk till you got to run the thing, everybody kind of says a lot of what you had to say. So I do support affordable housing, like Councilor McGuire Blaze and the rest of us here. I have friends and family that grew up in this particular area. The problem I've got is we don't really have a plan. We're going to throw money at it. We're pulling money out of a budget and we're sticking it in. I think we're putting the cart before the horse. I'd love to hear from administration what an actual plan would be, like a laid out plan, so we know how it's going to work, so that anybody's wanting to get involved in this would know how that's going to work. So that we know where those dollars are going, so we can be accountable to our residents on how we're spending their dollars. Once we put money out on the table, it's hard to roll that money back. It's really hard for us to roll that money back. So if we don't do it responsibly, I don't know that we're doing the right thing just throwing money out there. I would love to hear myself, if we're not going to have a report first, I probably wouldn't support it. I like to have a plan before I spend money. And that's, we look back to just not that long ago when we were talking about parking, of making a change without having something to verify that that was the right thing to do, and that there was a lot of other factors that could come into play in that case. Similar to that, I think sometimes we get ahead of ourselves and we get in the way of progress. So these houses are falling down. But if you go over there and look, there's a few 3-story buildings up there now that are beautiful, well built, and in great shape. Sometimes we have to let the past go. I'm not suggesting that we don't do anything, but I don't know that throwing good money after bad in this situation is necessarily a good thing. And that's why I would like to have a more comprehensive report from administration before I spend. I know it's $12,000, but that money means a lot to the residents. $12,000 is a lot of money to the individual. So I don't want to spend it frivolously. I want a report to back it up. So with absent of a report, I can't support it. And I'm going to open it up to anybody who has one last comment or question. Then Mayor Bonnie will go last and speak to the motion, and then we'll call the vote. Councillor Guerin and then Councillor Hammond.
I mean, I've just heard in the last couple of people talking, we seem to be talking about one organization. We keep talking about the former neighborhood that I used to live in, and I'm not supportive of only helping one. I mean, if we're going to do $12,000 just to help one, I mean, I just don't understand how we're going to get, how the other nonprofit groups who may have similar issues, how we get everybody involved. I mean, it seems like we're trying to solve one problem for one organization
this to one. It would be one agency. It would be all the agencies within our municipality that are helping to provide supportive, affordable housing. So this isn't going to do any repairs, but we had the providers of these homes in this room with us, helping us draw this to bring forward. And it was that one of the big roadblocks, they are having trouble accessing money from upper levels of government because they are unable to attain the funds that are available. Sometimes these grants come up and they close within a very brief period. They don't have the ability to put together the engineer report and the paperwork to apply for these grants. That's what they're saying. They can get these done within $1,500 to $2,000 that they just don't have. They've already done all the work involved with hiring a third party or to have the assessment done. So they know that the 67 houses that are in jeopardy right now, they have an outline that this one needs this much work and this one needs this much work. So if there's a potential grant for the type of fixes that home A, B, and C need, they can come to the municipality of Essex and say, do you have a $1,500 to $2,000 subsidy that we can have for this? They have to go through all the checks and balances to obtain that money. We're not going to have that money on the table. We're going to earmark it. And then when our administration has the application process in place, then these entities can start coming forward and applying for them. It's not like we're just giving the money out. So someone who's maybe making too much money to live in an affordable home is going to use it to fix their windows. It's not like that. And this came from the Affordable Housing Task Force that we put in place to look for some solutions. And they found a small one to help move this forward. And either we're going to put some skin in the game, as our past CAO used to say, or we're not.
Where am I going with this? I feel that there is money coming from upper tier governments that we have to help our residents apply for. So there is money coming from upper tier governments, just that we have to help these people financially through surveys and stuff like that to get to that point to apply. So it is, the other tier governments are supplying money. We just have to help their residents get that money. And I see this as a positive. I don't see it as being something that upper tier governments should apply for us. I feel that we can help our residents and get tax money through the upper tier governments by spending some tax money through lower tier government. Thank you.
Maybe.
Thank you, and through you, Chair. The path forward on this, putting some money aside at budget to talk about, and that budget we could decide not to go forward with it. We could cut the money then, or we could allow the money to sit in budget if deliberations go well for it, and allow our administration to come up with a good policy for us, and then to actually be able to put that in place next year seems like a win to me. To say no, we're not going to even talk about funding it right now, wait for the report to come out, then come back to us in the next budget year. Maybe we'll talk about it then. Maybe it'll be other people sitting here. I think that if we don't move forward on it, we really put a nail in this. So it is now or never. Either we put some skin in the game or we don't.
So my last comments, and I'll turn over to Mayor Bondi for the last word, is skin in the games. I've heard it so much. I feel like a Sharpie. Everywhere we go, we got skin in the game. We give a lot of money out and we get in the way. The federal government, we have levels that's our lanes, and we are constantly at this level and the next level, getting into the federal government's lane and the provincial government's lane, donating taxpayer dollars for subsidy programs and things that those levels of government are supposed to look after. However, I'm not saying no to that. What I'm saying is present a plan and then we fund it. We don't put money, earmark money aside for a hope to, when to, and what we think will be. We have to have a substantial plan in front of us before we earmark money. Otherwise, those monies the taxpayer still pays it, and it sits there unused, doing nothing. So present a plan, then we fund it. That's my position. Mayor Bondi, your last word.
Chair, I need to ask a question. There is a couple options. One option is I table the motion, or the other option is you decide or council decides. I think that some members of council are more privy to things because we're on the Affordable Housing Task Force. And I have questions for Mr. Fred Groves in the audience, and I'd like to be able to ask him questions. So either we table the motion to allow him to speak, or you and the clerk can come up with something to see if Mr. Fred Groves can answer some of these questions that members of council are saying.
We'll refer to the clerk because there is a motion on the floor.
The chair, I think we're safe bringing with the motion on the floor. Council can vote if they'd like to hear from the delegation that the mayor proposes. If council votes in favor, then we can speak to the delegation. The delegation is speaking only to the motion. Everybody will have a question again for the delegate. If it's opposed, then you call the question. In the meantime, you could bring a motion on the table before you call it.
You allow him to, the motion should be allowed to allow Mr. Groves to speak. So you support it, seconded by Councilor Verbeek. Any questions to that motion? All in favor? And that carries. Mr. Groves, you can make your way to the back. Go ahead.
Groves for returning back there. We've heard some comments that we should ask our upper levels of government, and that we should come up with a plan. I'm wondering if you can speak to how you've engaged the upper levels of government and how this subsidy would help leverage the funding that the upper levels of government have.
Thank you for your question, Mayor Bonnie. It's a very good one. The reason I got involved in the task force is because Essex is my home. And I was a lad when they built those houses. And so I have skin in the game myself. So just to reference your first point there, I invited our MP Chris Lewis back in June, I believe, to visit the Essex Affordable Housing. And just to clarify, to my knowledge, Essex Affordable Housing is the only nonprofit housing in our municipality. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty certain it is the only one. So I invited Mr. Lewis to come to a meeting, and he was quite surprised. First of all, he did not know that those houses were nonprofit. He did not know that. He visited some of the homes. Him and his staff were very concerned about the situation, and they were going to bring it up in the federal government whatever way they possibly could. But as I mentioned in my earlier comments, Ontario is the only province or territory in all of Canada where housing is the responsibility of the municipalities. And in regards to your second question, Mayor Bondi, I believe that Director Chadwick was absolutely thorough in her explanation of how this money would be used. And I defer any more questions in regards to that to Director Chadwick. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Groves. You can sit down.
You're welcome.
Thank you for answering the fact that we have had our MP out, and I have talked to our MP about this because the level of government, the grants for the triplexes has come from the federal level of government. So he's involved. So for those who know me, know that I don't spend frivolously at all. In fact, I found $1,000 that was unaccounted for this year, and we nailed that down. So the multi-residential at Weston Apartments, way back when we brought in Weston Apartments, we actually waived DC charges for multi-residential apartments, but yet we can't do it for something like this. The other tiers of the government are not going to help us. I'm way too long in my career to sit here. Yep.
We were to ask questions of the delegate. I don't know that it's the time to be,
Okay, well, I thought we were done with that.
no, I'm going to give everybody the
Okay, okay, sure.
You want to hold off right now? Counselor Hammond, you had a question for the delegate. You might want to make your way back there.
Thank you, through you, Chair. Thank you, Fred. Does the Affordable Task Force have a destination for this money right now?
Absolutely. And once again, I believe Director Chadwick has answered that question.
So we have someone to write a check to. She's saying no.
They would have to apply for it. I really don't know how the municipality works in that regards because I'm not a counselor, but they would, as Mayor Bondi through her motion has explained, that in this case, the Essex Affordable Task Force, the Essex nonprofit would have to apply for it.
Okay. And with the report coming from council, that's going to take months. Do you feel that the task force could possibly do some fundraising in order to start raising some of those funds?
No, and the reason for that is because to my knowledge, the task force is not a committee, it's an ad hoc committee.
You're true about that. That'll be all.
We're having one question and one follow-up. Anybody else have a question for Mr. Groves? Counselor McGuire, Belize.
Clarify. I do have two questions. Am I only allowed one? Oh, okay. Through the chair, thank you for speaking again, Mr. Groves. When Chris Lewis came and he said he was going to bring it up to the federal government, was there any follow-up? Was there any follow-up from that?
No, there has not been.
And have you invited our MPP, Anthony Liardi, to?
No, I have not at this time.
And have you gone to county council?
Myself?
Or the task force, sorry.
No, we have not.
No. So you just asked the federal government for
That's
help,
correct.
but not the other two
No.
before you came to the municipality?
No.
Okay.
That's a very good question. Thank you.
Any other questions, Counselor Garon?
Chair, I guess through the delegate to Ms. Chadwick. Mr. Groves has said that the Essex Nonprofit Homes is the only nonprofit housing in Essex. Can you verify that there's no others?
Deputy Mayor, my understanding is that the Windsor Essex Community Housing Corporation does maintain and operate other affordable residential units within the town of Essex and would also be considered as, should the motion be carried, to review, I guess, eligibility. So in other words, the Windsor Essex Housing Corporation is another affordable housing provider.
And just back on that again. So back to what I was originally saying earlier, then we're talking about a subsidy program for Essex Nonprofit Homes, basically, is what we're really talking about.
And we're to address our questions to Mr. Groves. I'm sorry.
I think I did it through him to her.
So just to clarify, let's just use the Brian Ave Apartments as an example. The Brian Ave Apartments in Essex Center is not owned or operated by Essex Nonprofit. It is owned and operated by the Windsor Essex Community Housing Corporation and could be eligible for such a subsidy program.
I just have a couple questions for you, Mr. Groves. So you say that there's a plan in place, but I don't hear a clear plan in place from our director. I don't even know how both would qualify. It sounds like what's being presented is very tailored possibly tailored towards one housing group as opposed to the other. So that's why I say that when I say there's not a plan, that's what I'm referring to. We don't really know what we're doing, and that's why I have the issue. And one of your members from your Affordable Task Care is asking questions because when I spoke with him, I did only speak with one. He wasn't quite sure where you were going with this either. So it doesn't appear to me that there is a clear plan in place. So that's where I'm at with it. So if you want to
Okay.
speak a few words, then we're gonna call
If
the question.
I may summarize and then I'm going to have a question, okay? If that's okay. No? Okay. So the houses over at the Essex Nonprofit Housing, I believe there's about 160 of them right now. I could be wrong, 130 in there. Within 5 years, 67 of them are going to have to be torn down if they're not repaired. The money, grant money, is available through the provincial and the federal governments. However, in order to apply for that money, you have to do an assessment on each individual unit. And that is what we're asking for. Does that answer your question, Deputy Mayor? Okay.
So I need a mover to receive the report or receive this delegation and then second it. Moved by Councilor McGuire Blaze, seconded by Mayor Bondi. All in favor? And that carries. And now we're back to the original motion. And Mayor Bondi, you were having your last word and then gonna call the question.
Thank you. And so there is also $8,000 in this year's council contingency funds that could be put towards it as well. So we could go with just $8,000 and then, it's starting something. Deputy Mayor, I see you're saying like there's no plan. When we asked for a flooding subsidy program in the town of Essex, we didn't know that we were asking for a rain barrel, a sump pump, a downspout disconnected. We were just trying to help people that were flooding. Same thing. Same thing. If we vote in support tonight, we're trying to help people that are going to lose their roofs over their heads. Not every home over there, not every lot wants to be a triplex. The triplexes are beautiful, but they also don't have enough money to get triplexes on each single family lot. So we could tear down 67 homes. They can't possibly put triplexes up on those homes. What will happen is those lots will go to private market. And we will one by one lose our affordable housing stock in Ward 1 in the town of Essex. The upper levels of government aren't going to help us with this seed money. In fact, I've been here a long time. In fact, I believe that if they see us doing a little bit of seed money, they're going to be like, wow, look at you guys. You guys are leaders. You actually really care about affordable housing, and we're going to help you even more. The other two affordable housing members on the Affordable Housing Task Force are Councillor Verbeek and Councillor Hammond. At the Affordable Housing Task Force meeting, I want to point out that every single person there was in support. We do have a plan, and it's not that complicated. Just like I referenced the flooding subsidy, at the Affordable Housing Task Force, everybody supported it. Everybody supported the letter. We do have a plan. It's not that complicated. It's putting a little bit of money aside. It could be the $8,000 that we haven't spent this year. Not all houses there are going to be 3-story. County council is not going to help us. These are our residents in houses in our municipality where we could tonight vote to have our administration work to draft a subsidy program to help residents in Essex Ward 1, where their homes, their walls, I've been inside their homes. Their walls are falling in and they're being propped up by wood. That's what our residents are living in. $1,000 to $2,000 per home could leverage provincial and federal dollars to fix that. But if we don't start now, then we're another year behind and we're going to lose another 5-6 homes. So the power is with us, council, tonight to make a decision to help people right in our backyard and to be leaders, or to just sit back and say that's not our responsibility. It's county, it's the province, it's the feds, where this $2,000 per house is actually keeping a single family housing unit in our tax assessment. It's like what we did. We've done loan programs to keep people's shorelines protected when the water's high. We are responsive government that reacts when there's needs in our community. This is a need in our community. It's too bad every single member wasn't on the Affordable Housing Task Force and you didn't see Essex Nonprofits and their consultant come here to talk to us. And they didn't see the discussions from all the brainiacs in the room. So thank you, and thank you.
Shepley, if you're ready to call the vote, then I'll call the recorded vote. Thank you. So through you, the mayor has asked for a recorded vote. Mayor Bondi, how do you vote?
Support.
Mayor Bondi supports. Deputy Mayor Shepley, how do you vote?
Get one point of clarification. Mayor Bondi mentioned about the $8,000 in the council contingency fund. Which dollar amount are we voting on right now, just so that everybody's clear?
So through the chair, I don't think we're voting on any dollar amount. I think we're voting on a notice of motion that's saying that Town of Essex Council shall direct administration to investigate options for an affordable housing subsidy program to help nonprofits who supply affordable residential units in our community to use the subsidy to leverage grant dollars, and that such program be included in the 2026 Town of Essex budget document for deliberation. That's all we're voting on right now.
Order. I think that's a big misunderstanding. Then I thought we were voting on dollar amounts. If it's just a report, that's very different. Thank you for that. I'll support that.
Deputy Mayor Shepley supports. Councillor Verbeek, how do you vote?
Support.
Councillor Verbeek supports. Councillor Allard, how do you vote? Councillor Allard supports. Councillor McGuire Blaze, how do you vote?
Support. We should still ask the other upper tiers of government, though.
Councillor McGuire Blaze supports. Councillor Guerin, how do you vote? Councillor Guerin supports. Councillor Hammond, how do you vote? Councillor Hammond supports. Councillor Meady, how do you vote?
Support.
Councillor Meady supports. So by a vote of 8-0, the motion is carried.
Capital Works and Asset Management 2025 Asset Management Public Engagement Survey results. We have, we don't have your name tag. We have Erica here, our manager of asset management, to talk to us. Can you please start again with your mic? There was a little bit of an excitement and our delegates were leaving. Okay. Welcome, Erica, and you're going to talk about our asset management plan, and we need to turn off that mic there. Sorry.
Okay, take two. Thank you, Madam Mayor, through the chair. So in accordance with OREG 58817, Asset Management Planning for Municipal Infrastructure, the town administration has been working with the hired consultant PSD Citywide to meet the requirements for establishing an asset management plan. Although it was not a legislative requirement, administration wanted to obtain public feedback with regards to asset management and levels of service provided by the town. The objective was to ensure that the town's asset management plan is relative to the needs and wants of the community, and that public feedback could be considered in the development of potential funding strategies. A digital survey was available to the public for a 3-week period from June 5th to June 26th. In total, 136 residents answered the questionnaire in its entirety, with additional 76 who partially completed the survey. There were 13 questions that were targeted to obtain information from residents regarding their background information, age, ward, family, etc., public perception of what makes Essex a great place to live, public perception of what asset categories participants believe the town should target for spending, public perception of the condition and reliability of the town's assets, public feedback on taxation increases related to levels of service, and any other general feedback that they were willing to share. Overall, there was generally positive feedback. When given a list of categories and asked to rank what is important to make the municipality a great place to live, the participants indicated that they felt the majority of categories were equally important to them. This included community safety, outdoor open space, parks, trails, availability of employment, self and well-maintained roads, moderate tax increases, connectivity to urban centers, and recreation or sports facilities. Overall, the data showed that the top 3 categories that residents would like the town to focus funding on were well-maintained roads at 23%, reliable utilities such as drinking water and sewage at 19%, flooding resiliency at 13%, as well as emergency service facilities at 13%. That data aligns with the Town of Essex current asset management plan that outlines a need to focus funding on the core assets of road network, water network, sanitary sewer network, and stormwater network. The majority indicated that they would like the current level of service maintained regarding extracurricular programs, maintenance of public property, winter control, utilities and billing, emergency services, and bylaw enforcement. The final question of the survey was, would you be willing to accept a taxation increase to ensure that the town's assets are maintained and replaced in a timely manner? The results of these questions were split, with 36 indicating that they would be in agreement with such, 50% indicated that they would not be in agreement, and 14% indicated that they were unsure. There were limitations to the survey. The data collected was voluntary, and the results in the initial questions showed that the information was mainly collected from a very specific demographic, over 65, no children, and Ward 1 location, which may not represent the opinions as a whole of the Town of Essex. A summary of the data collected in the survey will be provided to PSD Citywide to incorporate within the 2025 asset management plan that is forthcoming. Thank you.
That was good. Any questions for our assistant manager? We're all questioned out. We're all questioned out. I'm hearing. I thought it was good, even though there wasn't a ton of responses. I think that the fact that they're talking about community safety and roads just speaks to the same thing that we're doing. I also thought it was interesting on how residents don't want to pay more for the same service, but even though everything costs more in our daily lives. Looking for a mover and a seconder that the Asset Management Public Engagement Survey results be received. Deputy Mayor Shepley, Councillor Verbeek, any other questions, comments? All in favor? Carried. Capital Works and Asset Management 2025 Annual Speed Monitoring Program. Turn it over to you again.
Through the chair. The 2025 Annual Speed Monitoring Program report summarizes the data collected from May 1st through October of 2025. The town utilizes 3 different devices to collect data: the Black Cat, the digital radar sign, and the speed trailer. From the data collected throughout the reporting period, there were 7 town roads notified with a high enforceability rating. In no particular order, they are as followed: 3rd Concession Road within the 60-kilometer zone, 4th Concession Road within the 60-kilometer zone, 11th Concession Road within the 50-kilometer zone, 13th Concession Road within the 50-kilometer zone, Gore Road within the 50-kilometer zone, Dunn Road within the 60-kilometer zone, and Fairview Ave West within the 40-kilometer zone. The 85th percentile speed was the determining factor that was used for identifying a speed issue. As detailed within the report, the 85th percentile speed is typically the speed that most drivers feel comfortable driving at, and can be the indicator of if the posted speed limit is an appropriate limit for that section of roadway. For the purposes of this monitoring program, roads that have a posted speed limit of 60 kilometers or lower have an enforceability tolerance of 10 kilometers over the posted speed limit. Roads that have a posted speed limit of over 60 kilometers an hour have an enforcement tolerance of 15 kilometers over the posted speed limit. Any speed above the enforcement tolerance is considered an enforceable violation. The enforcement rating is subjective and not part of the Ontario Traffic Manual. Therefore, the values have been set by administration using the following scale. Low is considered equal to or less than 10%. Medium is above 10%, but less than or equal to 20%, and high is greater than 20%. It's important to note that this is an ongoing program. The various devices will continue to be utilized in the coming years with the long-term goal to cover the majority of roads within Essex to gain a better understanding of where speeding issues are throughout the town. Additionally, the data collected during this monitoring program is shared with the OPP for information. Thank you.
Questions for the speed monitoring program? Councillor Verbeek.
Madam Mayor, I don't have a question, but I definitely have a comment for council and for the community. Years ago, we had the speed trailer operated by the OPP, and we were getting so many complaints, calls all the time back in my day when I was on the police service board, that we were chasing the police all over to trouble spots with that, with their cruisers and with that trailer. And this council took it with advice from administration to purchase these black cat boxes and this digital radar sign. And I see it paying off in spades now, you know, and it's because we listened to the community and followed direction of administration and put some skin in the game, put some money into this, bought these black cats. And now when we have this report in front of us, it's like, this is excellent to move forward with. Now we have this data.
Counselor Hammond.
Through you, Mayor. Not so much a question, other just want to make sure that these monitors, they only count the traffic going one way, right? Not both ways? When they're counting number of cars?
Through the chair, the Black Cat device, the single unit counts in both direction. The digital radar sign, they're subjective. So we have two and we usually pair them together. They only count one direction at a time.
Okay, well, the observation is the counting going on in Harrow in the summer, particularly Arthur Street and Walnut Street. Walnut Street North, they got like 3,000 cars coming through town here. And Arthur Street, the school's not even in, and we got 13,000 going through there every week, which just stymies me because there's not that many people on it, and they're just commuters coming through. I would like to see a car counter down on the more southern portion of Walnut North, just to see the cars that aren't getting missed going to Tim Hortons. The mayor brought this up a few years ago and got set down, but these numbers are a lot more actual than what was taken back then. It just blows me away that's, of course, this is the area that I asked for the slow down zones for the school areas and stuff like that. But that's a lot of traffic for that intersection. So close to, in between those two schools. That's happening not during school, just the same amount of cars, if not more, going during school. Thank you.
Hammond, any other members of council? Counselor Garen.
I noticed on this, the analysis that the device that is only the black cat, except for the third concession, fourth concession, Maidstone Avenue, but we have the other ones too, the speed radar ones, right? We don't use them for analysis?
Particularly the digital radar sign, it was utilized solely at the high school location in anticipation for the PXO crossing, because that wasn't fully up and running during the school year. We use that there more so not to collect speed data, but as a visual for the high school. But typically that one is used, the OPP trailer, that one is still operated by the OPP. So they're in charge of locating it and pulling it and whatnot, but they share the data with us.
Yeah, the black cat device, when we invested in them, I mean, it acts totally different than the trailer and those other ones, because the public really doesn't know they're even there. So you're getting really true numbers. It's a good device.
Any other questions from members of council? I really liked how we improved the report from last year, how there's more information in the color coded. I was just talking to the CEO. We'll definitely bring this to the OPP as well. I'm wondering in the future if we could get where it says fourth concession, if it could say like west and east, just because I'm trying to figure out which one's the west and which one's the east. But it's really good. And I'm wondering if in the next year, if we should keep the high ones on our radar. Like, I don't know, I guess it's something we can talk about, but if they're high, I kind of want to know if they're high every year, or if they were just, maybe there was construction in the area and they were high that week. But I find it really great. And for the members of the public watching, these speed reports will be put on our website under a section. If you type in speeding, you can find it. It is, they're there. They're under speeding. I found the 2024 one today. So it's really good data. Looking for a motion that we receive the 2025 annual speed monitoring program. Councilor McGuire Blaze, Deputy Mayor Shepley, all in favor? That's carried. Office of the CAO, community member appointment for the Essex County OPP. I will have CEO Drusevich just speak to the process used here.
The chair. For the 2026 year, the town of Essex is entitled to an additional community at-large member on the Essex County OPP Detachment Board North. We currently have one community representative, Dave Kygar, who was previously on our police service board. So we did an additional call out in early November for this position. We advertised it heavily in both papers as well as social media, and we got a large amount of applicants. So what we did was filtered the applicants and then held interviews to ensure a fair process. There were many highly qualified individuals. So myself, the municipal liaison on the board, as well as the vice chair, Mr. Kygar, did a scoring analysis, and the member that we're bringing forward for council to consider tonight is Don Williamson. Don is currently the fire chief at the municipality of Leamington. He comes highly recommended, and he has great credentials. So at this point, it would just be for a one-year term, because it is it's a rotation. So the municipality of Lakeshore had a 1 year additional, the municipality of Tecumseh had a 1 year additional, and this is our turn for the 1 year additional. Any questions? I'd be happy to answer them.
CEO Drusevich, just to confirm that he is Essex resident.
That's correct. That was one of the criteria.
Looking for a mover and a seconder. I'll get the report on the table, and then if anybody has questions, that the office of the CAO report be received and that Don Williamson be the second town of Essex at-large community member on the Essex County OPP Detachment Board North for a 1-term year. Moved by Councillor Allard, supported by Councillor Verbeek. Any other questions? All in favor? That's carried. Moving on to Capital Works and Asset Management, closure of the temporary access way at Fairview Avenue. We have Mr. Macbeth here for questions. Looking for a mover and a seconder that the Capital Works and Asset Management Plan be received for information. Deputy Mayor Shepley, Councillor McGuire Blaze, any questions? Councillor McGuire Blaze.
Thanks through the chair. So you provided three options. We can leave it the same, put in a sidewalk or put in a road. I want to suggest a fourth option. Just take away the barriers and just leave it the way it was before. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Macbeth, do you want to speak to that option?
No. Sure, through the chair. Yes, that is an option. The reason that we didn't put it forward, right, is because of the safety concerns, because that is a unmaintained way, right, that was not constructed to our standards, right? So to open it up to allow traffic through there puts us at a liability risk. While it has been done and it was done for the purpose of a construction access, it is not supposed to be a through road the way it is currently constructed. So that is why we did not put it in the report as such, and we put the options to bring it up to our current standard, leaving it up to council's discretion of whether or not they want to include any of these options within the 2026 budget or beyond. Thank you.
Ruccolo?
To add what the manager of Capital Works just mentioned, now that we know that it's being used and it's come to council, we have a liability to do something about it, which is either block it or make it safe enough that it can be used. So we can't remove the bollards for legal liability.
Thank you. Councillor McGuire Blaze.
Through the chair, I would rebut and argue that people use alleyways all the time within the municipality of Essex, specifically within Ward 1, literally a block away. So I don't know why you couldn't use this as an alleyway, which is what was suggested at the beginning, which is not paved, which does not have a curbs, which does not have a sidewalk. That was the ask at the beginning of this, and that is simply just to remove the barriers and allow people to use the dirt path, the dirt alleyway as such.
Comments from members of council? Deputy Mayor Shepley.
On our alleyways in town, granted, I realize there's various ones. Are any of them maintained by snowplows, or in the town of Essex at all.
Try and go based on the best of my knowledge. I know the ones that I'm familiar with, most of them are really not maintained. There's a lot of grass. Maybe they have some gravel there, right? And they are used by residents to get to rear yard garages and driveways, right? But it is also they're narrow, right? It's a slow moving traffic where this space that was constructed for the temporary access way, one is on town property on our parks department, right? It's not a right of way and it's not really designed as an alleyway either, right? So once again, like alleys are used, they are it's kind of known how they are, right? Where this really isn't, right? The circumstances why they look the same are a little bit different. Thank you.
Other questions from members of council? Seeing none, all in favor of receiving the report for information? In favor, opposed? That is carried. Operations, results of request for tender for beach roads winter control, looking for a mover and a seconder, that the report be received and that council award the results for the beach road tender control to Talis Group Incorporated, an estimate of $40,000 per year, and council authorize excess expenditures incurred over 2025 to 2026 winter control budgets to be funded from the contingency reserve for winter control. Moved by Councilor Hammond, supported by Councilor Guerin. Any questions? All in favor? Carried unanimously. Community Services Special Events Resource Team, looking for a mover and a seconder, that this CERT report for November be received. Moved by Deputy Mayor Shepley, supported by Councilor McGuire Blaze. Any questions? All in favor? And that is carried. Legal and Legislative Services, upper portion of the Taylor Drain improvements, looking for a mover and a seconder, that the following three members of the Drainage Board, Daniel Bazaire, Tiffany Pocock, and Danny Sauve, be appointed to sit as members of the Court of Revision to be convened for the upper portion of the Taylor Drain improvements. And the Court of Revision shall be scheduled for 5 o'clock on December 18th, and that bylaw 2493, being a bylaw to provide for the upper portion of the Taylor Drain improvements, be read a first, second time, and provisionally adopted on November 17th. Moved by Councilor McGuire Blaze and supported by Deputy Mayor Shepley. Any questions? Councilor Hammond.
I got one, but who do I direct it to? It's regarding on page 121 of 144. A portion of the existing upper portion of the Taylor Drain to be abandoned between such and such a point and another. Do we know why this portion of the drain is being abandoned? It runs up against Harrow's subdivision there. Does anybody have an explanation as to?
Beth is going to answer that for us.
Mayor, through the chair, I'm going to attempt to at least. I believe that any type of abandonment needs to come through the Drainage Act based on a request. So likely, if this is coming through the Drainage Act process here, the people on the upper end are the ones asking for the abandonment to be done. And because it's on an upper end of the drain, it is less likely it won't impact any other further people down the line. So that is where I'm going to assume, but I have not been part of this report or this report, so I can't speak to it. But normally for those type of abandonments, that is the process. Thank you.
Perhaps our administration can just confirm and follow up with us tomorrow. Yeah, I'm curious too, now that you raised it. It's a good question. Director Malanjukulo I think he's found something further.
I'm just noticing, again, administration will follow up tomorrow, but I'm just noticing that there seems to be a discrepancy between the previous report made in 1966 and the current configuration of the drain. That notes that a portion of the drain has been filled in and is not being used, so that's why it's being abandoned. But administration can confirm that tomorrow.
Other questions? All in favor? Opposed, and that is carried. Finance and Business Services 2026 budget outlook, and we will go to Director Rowe to bring us up to speed on this.
Thank you. Through the mayor. The 2026 draft budget is currently being finalized and will be released to the public on the 21st, following a walkthrough of the document and the tax rate impact on the 24th, which is Monday. As in prior years, we are bringing a report in advance of that to highlight some of the inflationary impacts ahead of our walkthrough and deliberations. And some of those highlights include growth, which is a positive impact of 1.8%. The OPP contract increases of 0.5%. We are still awaiting the notice from the province, but we have gone in with the estimate of 11% in terms of the upset limit that we have previously been notified about. We have also partially offset this increase through reserve transfers according to the stabilization strategy that was started last year. Further increases include contractual increases net of the salary stabilization, new positions being presented for 2026, and an increased AMP contribution of 1% as recommended by our asset management plan. I'm happy to take any questions, but I do want to note that this is just for information and no action is required at this point. I can also bring responses on Monday, the 24th, when we walk through the document.
Very much. That is, I like these memos. Looking for a mover and a seconder that we receive the budget memo, budget outlook, and then we can, Councillor Guerin, Councillor Mady, any questions? Councillor McGuire, please.
Through the chair. Just a clarification, the new positions per 2025 organizational review, is that for 3 positions or 2 positions?
Thank you. Through the mayor. So to provide some further clarification, there were 2 positions identified through the IT strategic plan and organizational review. A further 3rd position was identified through an internal review for council's consideration.
So the 268,000, that's for 3 positions, not 2.
That is correct. Thank you.
Are there questions from members of council? Do we know when the OPP increase is published?
Thank you, Mayor. We were expecting a notification anytime mid-month, which is now. So we're hoping to receive further information any day now. It will be too late for Monday's document. However, we can provide further updates to council in the update that we do ordinarily to demonstrate differences between walkthrough and deliberations.
Monday's document, is there paper copies for us?
So we're working through that this week and hoping to have that ready Friday. And I believe the same as last year, you'll receive the copies.
Thank you. I just like to write on things. Anything else from any other members of council? All in favor? And that is carried. Finance and Business Services, External Audit Service Extension, looking for a mover and a seconder that the Finance and Business Services be received and that council award the 3rd extension to KPMG LLP in the amount of $35,387.04, including non-refundable HST. Moved by Deputy Mayor Shepley, supported by Councillor Mady. Any questions? All in favor? Oh, Councillor McGuire, please.
Thanks, through the chair. Just to confirm, this is our last year with this current RFP, and we'll have to go out and ask for a new RFP in 2026? Yes. Okay, thanks.
And the answer was yes, just in case those didn't hear it on microphone. That's okay. Any other questions? All in favor? And that is carried. Reports from our youth members. Who's going to start? Youth member Foster.
Thing to report this week.
Through the chair, positive news, the senior boys volleyball team will be traveling to OFSA as they won their final Southern Ontario Championships. And then another positive news, the Junior Optimist Club baked 300 cookies for their residents at Isler Lodge last week.
Councillor Hammond.
Can I ask where OFSA is?
Okay, County Council update. Deputy Mayor Shepley.
Thank you, and through you, Madam Mayor. County Council approved a new 7-pillar advocacy strategy to help guide how we identify issues, prioritize them, and advocate with higher levels of government throughout the year. This is the first formal advocacy framework tied directly to our county strategic plan. And it is focused on making sure we speak with one voice, represent our local partners, and fight for Essex County's fair share. We also heard an update from the CEO, Sandra Sweers, on strategic plan itself. 2 years in, substantial progress has been made, embedding the plan into day-to-day operations. Directors are aligning their departments with clear goals and timelines. And looking ahead, council will be tackling more complex priorities like shared services, cost recovery, and system modernization heading into the 2026. On to other business. County Council adopted CAO performance appraisal policy to ensure accountability and transparency. We received updates on attendance support policy, which is being simplified to better support staff while reducing administrative burden. And we reviewed third quarter procurement report. All contracts over $500,000 were awarded properly and stayed within approval of the 2025 budget. Finally, a reminder, or this is not a reminder now, I wrote this before, the Transportation Master Plan was held on November 13th from 1 to 3 and 5 to 8, but a little late now for people to go. But we did it, Mayor Bondi and I did attend. Thank you, and that's the County Council report for November 5th.
Deputy Mayor, looking for a mover and a seconder that the County Council report be received and that we receive the minutes of October 5th. Moved by Councillor Hammond, supported by Mayor Bondi. Any questions? All in favor? That's carried. Correspondence to be received. Looking for a mover and the seconder to receive all the correspondence and it listed in agenda item 13.1, and then we can pull out items if council wishes. Moved by Deputy Mayor Shepley, supported by Councilor McGuire-Blaze. All in favor? That's carried. Any members of council wish to question any items of our correspondence? I do have a question for one of our items in our correspondence. And if we can't answer it tonight, we can just maybe get an email back. The management review meeting minutes of the Essex Water Distribution System. There is an MECP inspection that was conducted in February 2025 by the MECP of the Harrow Colchester Water System, and a rating of 93.1 inspection was issued, which 93, you think that's great, and I do think it's good, but when it comes to water, I really would like to see that higher. So I'm wondering what the issues were found. It says all non-compliance related issues from the MECP inspection have had corrective actions in place, but it doesn't list what the corrective actions were. So Madam CAO, I'm wondering if you could get us an update for that. Oh, Mr. Macbeth.
Sure. So I had spoken with the Environmental Services Manager, Rob Mackey, this afternoon about this particular correspondence expecting this question. So yes, the Y93 is a high score and it is a good score. We do strive for 100%. The reason that we have this score this year from chatting with the manager is that we actually had a new inspector. And past inspectors for the main detractant he stated, so I can pass that along, is that it was our inability to produce a second by second for the concentration time when it was requested by the inspector. And in past inspections, this was never requested, so we didn't really have it as something that we were currently doing. Since that time, we have now implemented that, and now we are up to what the standard would be. So moving forward, we'd expect, in our attempt, obviously, to get 100% on next year's score.
Thank you for working on that today. Any other items in 13.1 that members would wish to speak about? Moving on to 13.2, correspondence to be received and supported. We have an attachment from the Ombudsman's Office of Ontario, looking for a mover and a seconder that the correspondence from Paul Dubé, Ontario Ombudsman, be received, and that the Council for the Town of Essex address the Ombudsman's report as follows. Council of the Town of Essex will continue with their diligence in adhering to individual collective obligation to ensure that the town complies with the responsibilities under the Municipal Act, and that council resolution was passed on October 6, 2025, directs administration to revise closed council meeting agendas of council to provide as much information as possible about the general nature of matters to be considered in council's resolutions to go into closed meeting without compromising the reason for holding a closed meeting. And as a best practice, Council for the Town of Essex, they are reminded to practice robust record keeping for any request by a third party to keep confidential the information disclosed to council by a third party in a closed meeting pursuant to Section 239(2)I of the Municipal Act 2001. Moved by Councilor Verbeek, supported by Deputy Mayor Shepley. Any questions? All in favor? Carried unanimously. The Drainage Board, looking for a mover and a seconder that we receive the resignation of Percy Dufour from the Drainage Board and that council direct administration to write a letter of appreciation and thanks for his commitment to the Drainage Board. Moved by Councilor Guerin, supported by Councilor Hammond. Any other questions or any questions? All in favor? That's carried. And I think we're working to fill the vacancies on some of our committees already. Affordable Housing Task Force. We regret to accept the resignation of Fraser Fathers from the Affordable Housing Task Force and that council direct administration to write a letter of appreciation and thanks for his commitment to the Affordable Housing Task Force. Councilor McGuire Blaze, Councilor Verbeek. Any questions? All in favor? And Fraser Fathers resigned because he won the City of Windsor by-election. He was amazing on our task force. Looking for a mover and a seconder to receive the committee meeting minutes listed in agenda item 14 together with any recommendation. We have the Municipal Heritage meeting, and there is a recommendation there that the Municipal Heritage Committee meeting recommend to council that the property located at 44 Sinisek Street West, this is in Harrow, known as the Old Mill, be listed on the Heritage Register. Looking for a mover and a seconder. Moved by Councilor Allard, supported by Councilor Hammond. Questions to this? All in favor? And that's carried unanimously. And nothing under financial, and we do have a new business item brought forward this evening by Councilor Jason Mady. Am I going to you? Or Councilor Mady? And I have, I've talked to you and we have decided that this is minor and urgent.
Thank you, Chair, for explaining that, so I didn't have to explain again why it's minor. And although, so what happened was that our Ministry of Environment and Parks, they put forward a notice that they want to combine our conservation authorities, effectively taking from 39 down to 7. This has sparked a whole bunch of talk. And where our conservation authority is not necessarily against the idea of modernization, they really don't feel that this is going to best fit us. Neither do I. So the new business that I'm bringing forward is just for us to invite Tim Byrne and members of IRCA, as they see fit, to brief us on this. We're going to have a very short period where we can provide feedback to the province on our feelings. And I felt that'd be best if we did it as a council, that we were all equally prepared for it. So the first part of this ask is just to invite IRCA here to debrief us all on this new outcome.
Thanks, Jason. Do we know yet who we're supposed to be realigned with or anything like that?
Yeah, I couldn't name every conservation authority that we're going to be aligned with, but our new territory would take us well north of Guelph. So we'd be encompassing Turkey Point, Kettle Creek.
Canada.
Yeah.
I have concerns with this, particularly with Essex County being a peninsula surrounded by water and our drainage issues, so comforting our properties. I would definitely look forward to more information, and I think we should be sending a letter right after regarding our disapproval of such a thing. Thank you.
So what we're going to do is we're going to get the new business item on the table. So Director Malanjukalo will read it, Councilor Mady moves it, and then we'll get a seconder.
We also want to mention that after this, I'll be reading a notice of motion that asks for some correspondence. So that would be considered at our next meeting. But prior to that notice of motion, the matter of new business is that council invite the Essex Region Conservation Authority's leadership, including the CAO and/or senior technical staff, to attend the December 1, 2025 or December 15, 2025 regular meeting of council to provide a comprehensive briefing on environmental registry notice number 025-1257, including the potential impacts on the Essex region, anticipated changes to permitting, timelines, governance, and service delivery, local watershed-specific concerns, including flooding, sheet flooding, stormwater flows, watershed outlets, and Lake Erie shoreline erosion, and any opportunities for municipal collaboration or advocacy during the environmental registry notice number 025-1257 consultation period.
Committee supported by Councillor Verbeek. Okay, comments to this new business item. We have Deputy Mayor Shepley, and then I'll go around.
Mayor, so I would love to, so what we're going to do is they're going to come and speak to why they feel we shouldn't join. That's the crux of it. And I think when we first got elected this term of council, there was a change that the province made to IRCA, and then they went around to all the municipalities, and we essentially undid what the Premier did. And again, this is another case of, I want to have a better understanding, and I'm glad that we're going to have them come and speak to us before we do anything, because I certainly don't want to put us in a position, because I think this could potentially be a reaction to us from that. I would like to understand fully the Premier's reasoning behind it before I would support the letter. I want to understand both sides of this issue, because the last thing I want to do is upset the Premier and have him make a more rash decision possibly. So I appreciate you having them come out. I'd love to have a chance to talk to them.
New business item. So I'm glad there is a public consultation period. I want to thank you for raising this. One thing I do think that we are experiencing from this Premier is a lack of consultation and listening to our concerns. Along with Councillor Hammond, I do have concerns that we are a peninsula. We are a very unique area here. We also have John R. Park Homestead and Holiday Beach that may not fall under IRCA's purview going forward and could fall directly on us as taxpayers. So there could be a lot of negative consequences with this further regionalization of our conservation authorities. All in favor of inviting them here? That is carried. Okay, moving on to our notices of motion. Director Malin-Duplo.
The following notices of motion are being brought forward tonight for are being brought forward for presentment only, and will be brought forward for council's consideration at the December 1, 2025 regular council meeting. As discussed, the following notice of motion is related to the new business item at item number 16, and it's being brought forward by Councillor Beatty. Whereas the Ministry of Environment, Conservation and Parks has posted environmental registry notice number 025-1257, proposing the consolidation of Ontario's 36 conservation authorities into 7 regional entities, including the creation of a new Lake Erie Regional Conservation Authority, with the consultation period for the proposal ending on December 22, 2025. And whereas the Essex Region Conservation Authority, IRCA, Board of Directors has adopted a formal resolution outlining significant concerns with the proposed Lake Erie region boundary configuration, citing issues related to geographic coherence, local accountability, transition costs, service continuity, and the unique hydrological and environmental characteristics of the Essex region. And whereas the town of Essex places a high priority on effective watershed management, timely permitting, coordinated hazard mitigation, and the protection of local residents and property from flooding, sheet flooding, shoreline erosion, and other natural hazards. And whereas it is essential that municipalities understand the potential impacts of the proposed restructuring on frontline services, local permitting, environmental protection, and long-term watershed planning in our region. Now, therefore, be it resolved that 1. Council direct administration to prepare and send a letter to the Essex Region Conservation Authority expressing the town of Essex's support for IRCA Board's position regarding the proposed Conservation Authority consolidation, as outlined in Environmental Registry Notice 025-1257, and that this resolution be circulated to IRCA member municipalities for their information. And number 2, that council direct the town's clerk to submit the town's comments to the province consultation portal for Environmental Registry Notice 025-1257 by December 22, 2025. So again, this will be brought forward at the December 1st meeting, but it's asking for a letter to IRCA to also be shared with the IRCA member municipalities, and that council direct the town's clerk to submit the town's comments to the consultation portal. The second notice of motion being brought forward tonight for presentment only is moved by Mayor Bondi, that council direct administration to provide council with information regarding the lighted snowflake decorations hung by the town in the urban cores of the town of Essex, and that such information include the condition of the decorations, the annual cost to repair the decorations, and possible costing options for when the decorations need repairs or replacement.
Thank you, Director Malangikolo. Reports and announcements from members of council. Okay, we'll start on my left. Councilor McGuire Blaze.
Nothing to report.
Nothing tonight.
Thank you, and nothing to report tonight.
Whoa, then I guess everything's happening in Harrow this weekend. Winter Wonderland, November 22nd. I believe we're going to turn on the Christmas tree.
Okay, so I will hopefully see you at the tree lighting in Harrow. And if you're watching this and if you see snowflakes that are out, let everybody know that we are on it. There seems to be a lot of snowflakes, especially in downtown Harrow, that are not working anymore. Bylaws that require a third and final reading. Bylaw 2492, being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the November 3rd regular meeting of council to be read a third and finally passed on November 17th. Moved by Councilor Verbeek, supported by Deputy Mayor Shepley. All in favor? That's carried. Bylaw requiring the authorization and the use of vote counting equipment to establish advanced voting dates for the 2026 Town of Essex municipal election. Bylaw 2484 being a bylaw to do all that. November 17th. Councilor Mady, Councilor Hammond. Just one question to our clerk, Director Malangikolo. Will the community be getting notice of, when do you think we'll be getting notice of those advanced voting dates?
The advanced dates are in the report, so they are already noted. So the community can see that now, but we'll also be advertising those. I don't know the exact day, but I can get that to council.
Okay, thank you very much. All in favor? That's carried. Bylaw 2495 being a bylaw to enter into a license agreement with 997025 Ontario Inc. for Santa's Village Committee event space to be read first, second, third time finally passed on November 17th. Moved by Deputy Mayor Shepley, Councilor McGuire Blaze. Any questions? All in favor? That is carried unanimously. Bylaw 2494 being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of a November 17th regular meeting of council. Moved by Councilor Guerin, Councilor Mady. Any questions? All in favor? That's carried. A motion to adjourn. Deputy Mayor Shepley, Councilor McGuire Blaze, all in favor. Thank you for joining us this evening.